And immediately after falling from space, he asks this child to become his GF. Gotcha Force is a third-person action game that lets you become the GF, developed and published by Capcom for the Nintendo GameCube. It was released December 5th, 2003 in North America, November 27th, 2003 in Japan, and February 20th, 2004 in Europe. The game also apparently runs on the HAL Laboratories developed Sys Dolphin engine, but I was unable to confirm if this was true or not. The game has the player take control of a host of fun-sized robots known as Gotchaborgs, as they battle with the invading Death Force. A cornerstone of Gotcha Force's gameplay revolves around the player collecting different Borgs to use in battle. In true Gotcha fashion, there are lots of these little guys, with each Borg having its own rarity, alternate colors, and data crystals, and special partner Borgs. Borgs that only show up under certain conditions. Let's just say there's a lot. I'll get into it a bit later, but not too deep. I'm not going to bust out the algebraic equations and the flowcharts for the children's game. The game was released with mixed reviews. Very, very mixed. Some people seem to either love it or hate it. Some publications praised the game's concept and presentation, while others criticized the lack of depth and the repetitive nature of the gameplay. On the consumer side of things, reviews were very high, with the game garnishing a small but very dedicated fanbase online. In terms of sales, it was not a success, at least from what I can find. In North America, it sold only about 30,000 copies. I couldn't find global sales numbers, but I'm going to assume that it was a niche game regardless of market. But worry not, because I'm sure we can find a copy online for a reasonable price. Jesus Christ. Well, lucky for us, Capcom doesn't sell this game anymore, putting it in the realm of abandonware. So you can get it wherever free things are sold and play it on Dolphin. So, does this game hold up? Does it deserve its place in the halls of niche cult classics, or is it obscure for good reason? Join me while I spend far, far too much time playing and analyzing a game made for children. We start off with an anime intro. No voiceover, no explanation, just straight into the OP. One thing I did notice is that the English version of the game removed all the Japanese singing from the intro and just plays the backbeat. Which is a weird change to make, but at least they didn't try and dub it in English like they did with the rest of the dialogue. Just you wait, we're gonna get a taste of the voice acting.
The day after a meteorite fell towards Safari Town, a boy went in search of it, hoping to find an adventure.
Christ, this dialogue.
A robot that has a mind of its own. The little machine was also a life form.
Okay, I can't take it. This place is Sahari Town, or maybe Safari Town? I honestly don't know, and it's not important. The little robot is called G-Red, and immediately after falling from space, he asks this child to become his GF. GF Commander. He is a Gotchaborg from the planet Megaborg, and says he needs this random child to help fight off invading Borgs known as the Death Force. This plot sounds familiar, but I just can't put my finger on it. So, this is a third-person beat-em-up shooter action game. Every Borg has different attacks, but they all roughly use the same controls. You've got A to jump, B for standard attack, and X for a special move. Some Borgs can charge up their standard attacks as well. This game has an impressive amount of variety that I personally don't think I've ever seen another game top. After winning the fight and telling Red our name, we meet up with another generic child. I'm just gonna tell you now, none of these kids' names are important, and knowing them will provide no context. So we have our little robot fight his little robot. Then we go visit another generic child. After fighting off the bad Borgs, we can now choose either of these characters to be our partners in battle. You have to have a partner for every fight during the first playthrough. After this, we begin the process of beating the other neighborhood children.
You'll pay for this. This is impossible.
A few fights in, we get introduced to the team building mechanic. You see, you have this, and this is what it's called, this is not a bit or anything, GF energy, and every Borg has an energy requirement. You can have as many Borgs in your party as you can afford, at least up to 30 Borgs, and your GF energy increases as the game goes on. After assembling a team, it's time to resume beating the children. I always like this kid's design, he looks like he's ready to get things done.
No mercy. Exterminate them.
Okay, this is about as much as I can take of these voices. I feel like I was just talking about bad dubs, but I have a fix for this. Since we're playing on Dolphin, we can play the undubbed version. This is the English version with all the Japanese audio spliced in. I forgot exactly where I found this version, so I'm not sure who to thank for this, but know that whoever you are, you're a saint. For the next little bit, it's just rinse and repeat, knocking out these missions. Actually, let's talk about the missions a bit. First off, you have these generic missions. There will always be at least one of these on the map. The description usually says something like, defeat the Death Force unit. They take a random assortment of Borgs and pit them against you. These exist solely for grinding. Next, we have the side missions. These are structured missions with a predetermined pool of bots. They usually follow a theme like the Hero Borg unit or the Machine Borg unit. These are good to farm specific Borgs. They'll show up a few times during the campaign, but can't be endlessly repeated, at least not at first. Then you have the quests with the red exclamation mark. Beating these will progress the story further, at least most of the time. I think it's kind of unclear, to be honest, but you can usually bet that beating all the red quests will move the story forward. Then we have the tough stuff quests. These quests are usually one-on-one fights that can't be repeated. Unlike the other quests, if you fail these, the game remembers that. Winning or losing these fights actually changes some things later on down the line. And what do you know, we have our first tough stuff quest now, and a new challenger. This kid's name is Sho. You will learn to hate and fear Sho. Not gonna lie, the music that plays when you lose a fight kinda slaps. You can save scum these fights, but I don't want to go through that again. Now we can talk about the last type of mission, and that's the boss missions. Unlike the usual missions, these don't have a limit on your enemy's GF energy. They end once the boss is dead, and our first boss is a fire dragon. He's pretty big, but he goes down easy. Thankfully, we only have to fight one of them, at least for now. Things proceed business as usual. We're not getting new Borgs as fast as I'd like, but the game is fun and we're vibing. Pretty soon we get another tough stuff battle. This time it's with a character named Orochi. She seems to be working directly with the Death Force, and we're going to be seeing her a lot from here on out. She's pretty much the only character who goes through something that could resemble an arc, I guess. This fight is much easier than the fight with Sho. Maybe it's because she focuses on melee-focused Borgs, but she's much, much easier either way. After we beat her, the Death Force comes out in full, force. Every location on the map has been taken over. Each fight has us working with a different partner. What little story is here is starting to heat up, but gameplay-wise, things are still pretty easygoing. We clear out most of the levels, but the area at the top of the map stays obscured. Now we're left with a decision. Fight Orochi or Sho? I think it's time to take this Sho kid down. That first fight was just a fluke. Fuck! I will not be bested by a children's game. Again. Son of a bitch. Yes! The hard part is over. I can do this. Oh, he has another one? I got bested by a game made for children. I guess we just move on to the boss stage. At least I know I can beat that. So we discover a secret underground Death Force base and have our second boss fight. He's a pushover, don't worry. We win out and Red gets an upgrade, changing him into Neo G Red. He gets a significant power boost and a sword. We get introduced to another new character. It's this snot-nosed little nerdlinger. You know when TV shows or other media introduce a child character in order to sell it to a younger audience? That might have just been more of an 80s and 90s thing. Either way, I always hated that, even when I was a kid. And that's kinda what this is doing. Either way, it's not of any real consequence, it's just another character you can partner with. There is one level I want to highlight here, and that's the ICBM unit level. And they're not fucking around when they say ICBM. I mean, look at these things. They hit half the damn map and everything that touches the blast gets atomized. This is a Borg you can get. You can play as this thing that has one attack and then becomes useless. I don't have it at the time of writing, but it is possible. The sheer amount of asynchronous gameplay this game has is insane. Pretty much everything you can fight in the game you can play as. Everything from cockroaches to cruisers. It's absolutely insane. Alright, we got Orochi acting unwise again, so we gotta go deal with that. This time she brings along another nerd named Tama. And look what this kid fights with.
分かりきった勝負だと思うけどデスフォースに歯向かう者に裁きを下す
Yeah, I wasn't joking when I said you could play as a cruiser. It won't help him much, though. We also have another showdown with Sho, and this time he's teamed up with this weirdo. It ends how you would expect. One thing that starts becoming apparent, especially with the prevalence of airborne enemies, is how cumbersome the lock-on can be. Looking at you, Chubbs. You may have noticed that I'm always locked on to an enemy, and that's by design. You always have to be locked onto something, and it kinda sucks. It works most of the time, but as these fights get more frantic and more different types of enemies start showing up, it starts becoming a pain in the ass. It would be nice to be able to look around freehand, but you can't. What finishes our chapter is the final showdown with Sho. There is no losing this time. Have to win at least one of these fights. We actually can't lose this fight, it's mandatory you win it. It feels like they toned down his AI for this fight. They must have. Sho gives us a death crystal, and I forgot to mention the death crystals. We've been collecting them after certain boss fights. We have 2 at the moment, with the one we get from Sho being our 3rd. These open a door somewhere. The last fight in this chapter is us facing down Orochi in a big sky fortress. She has her regular Borgs as well as a cosmic dragon. This is the biggest dragon so far, and it has this awful black hole attack that sucks your shots in. It's annoying. But there's a huge landing we can hide under that basically makes it so the dragon can't hit us. With the dragon down, we get a little hint that something is wrong with Orochi, and then we get introduced to our actual big bad, the Galactic Emperor. I'm gonna stop here for spoilers. We're almost to the end of the game, and there really isn't much of a story, but if you don't want to know how things end, go here. A wise man once said, "Everything is fucked, and everybody sucks." And he was half right, because the Death Force is running amok through the entire town again. Apparently even the adults have taken notice, but they don't really know what to do about it. So it looks like it's up to us. Similar to the last time this happened, every mission has us pair up with a new partner. We even get Chubbs over here on our side after Orochi scares him off. These fights are getting downright frantic, with the Death Force throwing everything they have at us. I have mixed feelings about some of these fights. On one hand, having the harder fights is nice, but on the other hand, the combat in this game can become a near incomprehensible mess real quick. God damn it, there's so many dragons, calm down! The next story beat we get is quite a doozy. The Death Force have begun their invasion in earnest, so the kid gloves come off. We step into Super Sentai territory and the Gotcha Borgs get big. This makes the Death Force an actual, legitimate threat, and I don't know what's more of an alarming prospect. The fact that the giant alien robots are taking over the planet, or the fact that these children are our only hope. This is a nice little change of scenery. Even if it is for only 2 levels, I feel like the game could have milked a few more of the big environments out of this, but I mean, I'll take this over nothing. And of course, we finish this level off with a big-ass dragon. After beating the dragon, we learn that the Galactic Emperor was controlling Orochi this whole time, and using her like a human Bitcoin farm to generate GF energy. I'm not sure how that works, but we'll roll with it. We still don't know why he's doing that. Like, this is how the Borg world, or whatever it was called, was destroyed in the first place. Is that just the goal? To blow shit up? I mean, it's fine if that's it. Just seems kinda like a waste. Even when you consider they could just farm humans for GFs or whatever. Either way, I'm gonna kick his ass regardless of his plan. Now we move on to the final fight. The Borgs get real big, like concerningly big. Like we're in space right now, walking on the surface of the Earth big. We can't just be doing this. Japan is a tiny little island. I don't think it can take that much weight. I feel like there has to be ramifications for being this big.
No, I think we're approaching Earth.
Cool. I've always wanted to see it from space. Wait, what? What am I looking at? What is that?
Charlie, that's not Earth, right?
Dude, that's completely flat. That's 100% flat,
I know, that's
dude.
what I mean. That's what I'm saying. That can't be real, right? That's not.
We're looking at it, dude. The Earth is flat. The Earth. I'm just looking. I don't know. The Earth is flat.
Oh my god. It is flat. This fight sucks. It's definitely the worst fight so far, and to end the game with it is unfortunate. We have to shoot the cat turret things, then jump in the middle of the satellite. After we destroy some more turrets on the top, we take pot shots at the giant brain until the shield breaks. When the shield breaks, we can damage him. The constant lock-on becomes a real problem because you can't tell what you're doing half the damn time. After he takes some damage, the shield comes back and then the turrets respawn. As his health gets lower, his attacks get more dangerous. It starts as easily dodged laser shots, then you get ice shots, and then a barrage of layers that I'm not entirely sure you can dodge. By the end, it just feels like a battle of attrition, hoping that I can dish out more damage to kill him before he whittles my health down. We kill him, and then we get our EP. Orochi turns back into a normal girl, and the bots stay on Earth, presumably. And the Earth is saved, at least, assuming the giant robots smashing around on the surface of the planet didn't cause catastrophic damage. I think this game is great. Even when I take my nostalgia goggles off, I still think it's pretty damn good. Does it have its issues? Oh, you betcha it does. But overall, I think the good qualities outshine the bad quality. The gameplay is fun, it's approachable, it's simple. The universal control scheme for all the Borgs make it really easy to pick up and play and experiment with all the different play styles. That being said, I do have some issues with the core gameplay, paramount of which is the damn camera. You're always locked onto another Borg, and have no other control of the camera. This can make fighting certain types of enemies, mainly the flying ones, a chore. This and the relatively small FOV makes it difficult at times to assess the battlefield. Early on, it's not much of a problem, but as these fights get more intense, it becomes a real pain in the ass trying to not get hit. Even trying to understand what's going on can be difficult in some of these fights. There are little warning blips that come up on the side of the screen, warning of off-screen attacks that are supposed to help, but honestly, the screen is usually so busy that half the time I don't even really notice them. The game lets you cycle through targets with the triggers, which also feels kinda janky. Now, I have no proof of this. This is totally just what it felt like to me playing the game, but it feels like the game gives every Borg on the field a number, and you cycle through those enemies based on the numbers instead of cycling through the Borgs based on who's closest to you. Which, if true, is frustrating as all hell. Here's what I mean. Let's say there are 3 enemies on the map. I'm engaged with enemy 1, enemy 2 is off fighting someone else, and enemy 3 is attacking me from my rear right flank. Now, you think if I hit the right trigger, my camera would immediately lock onto the enemy attacking my right flank, but it doesn't. It locks onto enemy 2, who's on the other side of the arena. Now, this may not be the case. This could just be a case of Ross Scott's gamer dementia, and I've completely fabricated this, but sometimes during these fights, it felt like I would try and switch targets, and the camera would just go off and hit a random Borg, instead of the 3 that were, like, kicking my ass. I will admit I have a tendency to resort to button mashing and panic dodging when I get overwhelmed, which doesn't help when trying to change targets, but even when I'm not doing that, sometimes it feels like the camera has a mind of its own, and the combat just dissolves into, what it feels like getting your ass kicked on a tilt-a-whirl. Or, maybe I'm just going bonkers and the camera works fine. I don't know. Dodging is another oddity. Whenever you push the left stick in a direction, the Borg you're controlling will just immediately do a quick dodge in that direction, assuming it's a Borg that can do a quick dodge. So in order to run, you have to dodge first and then continue holding the stick to run. This makes movement feel very strange. It makes it very difficult to move with any precision or delicacy, because for half the Borgs you're going to play, one tilt of the stick just results in you shooting off in that direction, which is a strange choice. It's not bad, but I would really rather be able to move precisely than have an easy dash. There is another quirk to the movement that I noticed, and this one isn't gamer dementia. It's running and shooting. You see, if you try and shoot while running, most of the time you'll come to a complete stop. That is, unless you're running forward. You can shoot as long as you're moving some degree of forward. Here's what I mean. This can be incredibly frustrating, especially when you're using certain projectile-heavy characters, because it means sometimes you'll be trying to run and shoot, and then you'll just come to a stop, like a jackass, and then get hit. It's just another little thing that can make the movement on some of these characters feel incredibly imprecise and just kind of janky. All of these little things kind of play into what I think Gotcha Force's biggest flaw is, and that's a lack of precision. It's difficult to do anything, whether it be moving, attacking, or even changing targets, with precision. It all kind of has this, like, clumsiness to it. It doesn't break the game, like everything still works. It feels like if you tightened it up a little bit, the game overall would just play so much better. You also can't switch between your Borgs in battle. Whatever order you put them in is the order you have to play in. This always struck me as a strange decision. I would have liked to be able to switch the Borgs out in order to deal with certain threats. It probably would have added a little bit of depth to the gameplay, but I mean, it's not the biggest deal, it's just strange. After every battle, you also get, like, an end results screen that tallies up a score. Like, it's got a bunch of other info on it, but it ends with a score tally. And that score doesn't do anything. You would think it would, like, translate into some form of currency you could use to, like, get other Borgs, but no, it doesn't do anything. Clumsy as it may be, I still think it's a blast to play. All the mechanics work, and it's really fun to pick up and play. One thing that really makes Gotcha Force stand out to me, and what I would argue is its best trait, is the sheer amount of asymmetry the gameplay has. Almost every Borg you fight against can be obtained and used in battle. From cockroaches to cruisers, you can play pretty much everything. I can't think of another game, especially an action game like this, that gives the player that much freedom in choosing their characters. They all use the same control scheme, sure, but they all have vastly different playstyles. It's hard to put into words how much I love this. It's just so fucking cool. And just because you can play something doesn't mean it's good, or even remotely viable. If you want to play something like a cockroach, you can, but it has 1 health and almost no attack. Playing a dragon sounds cool, right? Well, you can't dodge anything because of how slow you are, and it takes a near calendar year to turn around. Or how most of the AI simply can't deal with airborne units, and just it makes them almost universally busted. I'm not highlighting this as a bad thing, either. I love it. It's the amount of freedom to play with whatever you want, and it's so refreshing. It's always made the game stand out in my mind as something incredibly unique. You can find all the best Borgs and meta your way through things, or you can assemble a meme squad and get into trash fights, and I love that I have the freedom to do that. The one aspect I think about this game that's divisive is how you get the Borgs. It's all random. It is a gotcha game at heart. Any Borgs you fight in any given level has the potential to be unlocked after you beat the level. With some Borgs, you need multiple data crystals to unlock instead of unlocking them outright. There is no other way to get Borgs. Well, you can trade them, but you need another person to trade with. You can't buy them, you can't sell them, you can't gamble with them. You just gotta keep grinding the levels out. And trust me, this game is gonna make you work for that. Now, I'm not exactly sure if this is the case, but I'm pretty sure that every playthrough of this game, it makes your chances of getting Borgs a little higher, capping out at about 8 playthroughs. Yeah, this game does the same thing that later the Souls games would do, where every New Game Plus playthrough kind of makes your playthrough a little bit difficult and kind of changes things around some. After beating the game once, you unlock a solo mode, which basically lets you pick no partner during the levels. Supposedly this increases your chances of getting Borgs, but I couldn't confirm that. After 2 playthroughs, you unlock a special battle mode. This mode lets you pick from any of the non-generic levels you've beaten and play them as much as you'd like, allowing you to grind for Borgs and grind Borg levels. Oh yeah, if grinding individual Borgs wasn't enough, every Borg has its own character level. You can level up every Borg level 1 through 10. Some Borgs get more health or more shots as they level up, but overall it's not that important. Most of the time, none of these Borgs are going to get any meaningful changes. It's just there to be there. And if all that grinding wasn't enough, you can also find variants of Borgs. There are a handful of different colors and variants, but I'm not going to get into all that. If you're the person who likes incredibly grind-heavy games, then oh boy, you're going to be in hog heaven with this one. I think in almost 20 hours of play, I found 1 alternate color. Oh, and on top of all of that, there's no duplicate protection for the drops, meaning that if a Borg needs 5 different data crystals to unlock, there is no protection in getting the same data crystal 5 times instead of the 5 unique ones you need. I have mixed feelings about this. I don't partake in any modern gacha games for a variety of reasons, but I'm not made of stone. It's fun to unlock the little guys. I enjoy the dopamine hit of getting a random drop as much as anybody else. But as I get older, I find it harder and harder to justify myself putting time into games like this, he says after putting near 20 hours and 2.5 playthroughs into it. Speaking of, this is a long-ass game. I wasn't dallying through my playthroughs, like I was trying to get through pretty fast, and it still took me damn near 10 hours to finish my first run. Last thing I'll say about the gameplay is that it's criminal that you can't auto-sort your Borg collection. This page right here is going to become a mess real fast. I love the way this game looks. The models are fantastic and it upscales so well. The designs are all killer, all the Borgs have a unique look, but they follow a very consistent art style. There's so much vibrant color in all the models and the environments, it's such a treat to look at. I love all the little details on the Borgs, like the little codes and the screws, and a bunch of them you can see Capcom printed on them somewhere. It's a nice touch. I like the way these little guys look. These are good little guys right here. I like all the 2D assets as well. Like I said before, it reminds me of a Saturday morning anime that never existed. I could see myself watching something that looked like this when I was a child. I was also surprised to see that sometimes these characters pop up in official Capcom artwork. Like here's a picture Capcom put on their Twitter for Golden Week 2023 featuring Usagi and Cammy. I can't remember where, but I read somewhere, and this could be completely false, so don't hold me to it, but that Gacha Force has a special reverence among more of the senior members of Capcom. And if that's true, it warms my heart knowing that this game still gets some love over there. The music in this game was credited to Mitsuhiko Takano, who looks to be an in-house composer for Capcom, working on titles as early as 1994. It's good, even though none of the tracks really stood out to me. Like, it's catchy and appropriate. I just feel like you never really get to hear most of the tracks in their entirety. So, like, for a lot of the gameplay, it feels like you're kind of hearing the, the same 3 tracks played over and over again. Probably the worst part about this game is the English dub. It literally sounds like Japanese children trying to speak English, and it's honestly kind of impressive how bad it is coming from a AAA studio. It doesn't really matter since we have the undubbed version. But even with the normal English version, the characters don't speak more than 2 phrases, although it gets very, very grating hearing the recycled combat lines. It's just, at least in the English version. Whoever made that undub ROM is truly a saint. I still think this game holds up. It's a little rough in some places, and it definitely has some strange design choices, but overall it's still really fun to play. I can't think of another game that offers the variety of characters that this game does, and that fact alone truly cements the game as a wholly unique experience, in my mind, at least. It's fun to play, and with emulation upscaling, it looks better than ever. I definitely recommend you give it a try. If anything in this video piqued your interest at all, I mean, it's free, so I would love for this game to get like a re-release or some sort of like a more official acknowledgement from Capcom, even like a port to like modern PC or consoles or something. I would love for this game to be able to reach a new audience and get more appreciation than it gets now. I think it deserves it. It's not perfect, not even close, but goddamn if it is not charming. Well, that's it for today. I hope y'all enjoyed the show. Thank you for watching. Yeah, another one down. I appreciate you all immensely. Thank you for coming out, and until next time, stay safe and take care. Even when you consider they could just farm humans for GFs or whatever,